Hello, folks. As you all know, we're in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic, which has been going on since March of 2020. And as of right now, it's January 2021. And I've got lots of lessons that I learned during the pandemic, and I'd like to share that with you guys today. Here's some of the statistics from COVID-19. Now, back on March 16th, 2020, when the state of New Jersey went on lockdown and there was a national emergency, there are about 4,000 cases of COVID-19 in the United States. As of today, January 7th, 2021, there are 20.7 million cases, 352,000 deaths, 19,208 deaths in the state of New Jersey, and the population for the town that I live in, Jefferson Township, is 21,212, and that is of 2018. I'm personally just not surprised by the numbers at all. If you guys have seen the news, which I'm sure you have, you probably wouldn't be surprised either because of all the gatherings. There was not a mask mandate, at least here in New Jersey, until April. And the events that happen right now, and actually last night on the 6th, people raiding the Capitol building down in Washington, D.C., they're probably just going to spread COVID even more. Throughout this pandemic, there have also been lots of shortages of supplies. Like here in New Jersey, there have been shortages on toilet paper. Back in March and April, there were shortages of COVID-19 tests. There was also shortages on meat, non-perishable food items, personal protection equipment like masks, gloves, hand sanitizer back in March and April as well. Soap, people were buying that stuff like crazy as well. And right now there's still a shortage of bicycles nationwide. If you buy a bicycle, certain shops have said you're going to have to wait at least 6 months, and if not that, a year before you can get a bicycle. Back in May, there were yeast shortages here in New Jersey. People are buying all the packets of yeast at stores, and there's also been a national shortage of change or coins because now stores want you to pay either using your credit or debit card because of the fact that they do not want to handle all that cash. So it's January right now, but last month I had winter break from my school. Now my winter break this year was pretty much like every other break except for the fact that I could not just visit my grandparents. Usually on my dad's side of the family, the week before Christmas, the weekend before that, we will go up and spend a couple nights at their house. But this year, we ended up having to have a Zoom call with them because it's too risky to go up to where they live in Syracuse, New York, which is in the central part of the state. Now, as for my mom's side of the family, we went up to Western Massachusetts and visited them for 1 day only, and that was, nice. We got our gifts and all that. And as for our dad's side, they had to mail all the gifts down here to New Jersey. However, I went to Lakota Wolf Preserve with my family, which is here in New Jersey, and the day after that I went and did the Thunder Swamp Trail in Pennsylvania with my dad, which I also made a video about, and it was fun, and the rest of the time I spent here at home in New Jersey riding my bike around town, and it was overall a nice relaxing break. Now, I was probably spending more time by myself because of the fact that we really couldn't go and see my extended family members in person or for that long. But after all, if we if we did that, we would probably spread COVID to them, and it would be very risky to do. Um, so, you know, we want to be safe here and decrease the spread of COVID-19. So my relationship with my family during the pandemic has been for the most part the same. I have been spending less time with them, however, because we've been in the same house the entire time for months. But over the summer, I watched my younger brother William, because my parents were here working from home. Um, and with friends and people that I don't live with, I was still able to go hang out with them in person because we all live in the same town. And I did make some more friends with people who also enjoyed going cycling, and when I ran cross country this fall, I made some other friends that were on the team. I'm in contact with all of them, but seeing them in person is not really working, and right now I've been able to see less and less of them in person because of the rise in COVID-19 cases here in New Jersey. But once I can see them in person, I will try and do that as much as possible. As I'm sure you're all aware, over the past few months since March, the Democrat and Republican parties have drastically changed their views of each other and of COVID-19. So, Trump originally thought that this pandemic was a hoax back in February. He even said, and I quote, "This is the Democrats' new hoax," unquote. So, way back in February, though, neither the Democrats nor the Republicans actually thought this pandemic was very serious, until March, when Dr. Fauci was giving out guidance. Trump and a lot of the Republicans were, against Dr. Fauci, and they didn't want to listen to what he had to say, even though Dr. Fauci was a Democrat. He still knew what he was talking about because he is a genuine doctor. Now in April, the situation got worse, where people are all pointing the finger at Andrew Cuomo, governor of New York, and they said that he killed a bunch of people by sending them back to the nursing homes. And you got Gavin Newsom, who was talking about shutting the state of California down. Now, the Republican Party did accuse the Democrats of using the pandemic to gain control, and unfortunately, there have been lots of anti-lockdown protests, among other protests that have happened. And another thing that did happen was a lot of these Democrat leaders who told all of us to stay home and wear masks decided to be hypocritical and go out in public with no mask on and travel. Like the mayor of Denver told everybody to stay home for Thanksgiving, and then he got on an airplane to go visit his family members. And another thing that happened was with mail-in voting, which is where you get sent a ballot to your house that you fill out and return to your county board of elections. Now, the Republicans blamed the Democrats for this, saying that they were going to use it as a way to steal an election and make sure that Joe Biden won, even though there hasn't been any proof of voter fraud lately. And now Trump is trying to overturn the election so that he could win, and he's mad at Mitch McConnell as well, because he even said, yeah, Joe Biden won. And as I was saying, yesterday, January 6th, people went into the U.S. Capitol because they were mad about the election results. So, after the 2020 election, there's still tons of disagreements and a lot of tension between the two parties, and the tension really started to increase back in June during the killing of George Floyd. People protested about that, and there was a huge divide between Democrats and Republicans because Black Lives Matter, the organization, is heavily affiliated with the Democratic Party and not the Republican Party. So, both sides had their issues. They both did things wrong, and, unfortunately, this pandemic has really just divided them even more. And now Trump is going to have to accept that Joe Biden is going to be inaugurated later this month as the new president of the United States. As always, folks, thank you for watching. For the Jefferson Township High School Multimedia Broadcasting and Journalism Academy, I'm Patrick Bubniak.